What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of tickers out there. I'm going to talk about why the market is currently dropping in the pre-market, how this could end up affecting it going into the open, and what you should be watching for as we approach market open. Before I do anything like this, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so make sure you take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, in just about 1 day, so it ends tomorrow. So check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, so looking at SPY, this thing's down about 0.46% in the pre-market, continuing to look a little bit weak as we're getting a bearish cross on the PPO. However, I wouldn't necessarily count this out and say that this is a guaranteed, downfall that's coming. This will be heavily determined by all this data that's dropping in the next 15 minutes after the market opens, and then 30 minutes after market open as well. So first off, we have the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI report, which gives us a good gauge of how the economy is doing. And it's going to be measuring the amount of contraction we're seeing on the global manufacturing side. Now, this is going to be very important, and this could cause volatility for the first 15 minutes after the market opens at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time. And then after that, at 10 o'clock a.m., we have the ISM manufacturing PMI and even more manufacturing data and construction spending, and just a bunch of important pieces of news involving how the numbers are looking in the manufacturing side, how is the economy holding up, and all of this will affect the entire market. But the biggest thing the market's going to be looking for, which is going to be, in my opinion, the biggest determiner of which way we go, is going to be the JOLTS job openings report. Now, that's also coming out at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, or 30 minutes after the market opens. We have the job openings and the job quits coming out, and that's going to be very important. Now, right now, we want the forecast to be around 9.5 million, and the consensus is around 9.6 million. We want it to be somewhere between there. Let's hope we get some very, very decent numbers, and that could help the market pump very nicely. But if it's way too high, if it's like over 9.8 million, this could incentivize the Fed to be more hawkish, so we have to be careful. If it's way too low at like 9.3 million or so, then this could also slow the market down, as we would be talking about potential recessionary fears and more contraction than what many people are expecting. So we want this to be very close to what we're expecting, these expectations right here. And it's the same thing with the job quits. We want it to be around 4 million. We don't want it to be like way too high, way too low either, just as what we're expecting. So just be very careful. Expect some very high volatility, and that will determine the way in which the market moves. Now, we're still waiting for like Uber and Pfizer to report earnings at the time I'm recording this. But just as a reminder, we have AMD after the market closes, which is going to be big for Nvda and a couple of the other stocks out there, the semiconductors. We have Starbucks and Pinterest later on today after the market closes. And not to mention, the really, really big day is going to be kicked off starting tomorrow. And we have PayPal and Shopify. Then after that, we have Amazn, Aapl, and Coinbase all reporting earnings for Thursday. So it's going to be a pretty crazy week. Next couple of days are going to be wild, so make sure you're ready for this. Now, looking at some big things to know, according to CNBC, the market's on a tear. We're continuing to see like lots of stocks closing very, very strongly for the month of July. This is a good month for Meta. Technically, that is the truth. I mean, they're up like 11%. And we are starting to see some sinks in the profits of like BP, for example, for an oil giant. There were some disappointing earnings right now, which is making people a little bit concerned. There's some news involving the Biden administration that came out to tackle new student loan debt. That is contentious. We could talk more about that some other time. But for now, this is all I'm seeing in the markets. Nothing too major that just came out. But now let's talk about the charts. What should we be watching for? So looking at SPY, you will notice one thing, and that is it has a tendency of trying to bounce around our 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. All right, that is currently around this 454 level. So we're going to be watching if it does end up dropping this low. Now, the JOLTS job openings will determine which way the market ends up moving. It is looking weak in the pre-market. The whole market's looking weaker. If we end up getting a rug pull, let's just say hypothetically, we don't get what we want, and the market continues to downtrend, and the JOLTS job openings and job quits don't look too good, right? Market could start sinking all the way down to 454. If that fails us, we have the potential to come all the way down to 453.5, potentially even lower levels down here, like 452 becomes a possibility. If we get good job numbers, the market could try to bounce and we could see SPY try to make its way up to fill this gap. So we're going to basically gap down into open. This gap could get filled intraday, and we're going to likely push back to about 458. I think a little bit lower than that, like 457.8 to 458. It's going to be one of those two most likely. I'm expecting a relatively big move. One of these two is going to happen, so make sure you are prepared, and we will see what the data determines. I wish I could predict everything perfectly this time around, but I can't really predict like what a CPI will be. I can't predict everything Jerome Powell will say, and this is another instance like that where I can't really predict what these numbers will look like. So the best thing to do is just sit back, be patient, and watch for confirmations and see how the market responds. Now for the IWM, if we get the bearish case and it does get smacked down by all these job numbers, you're going to be watching 196.8. If that fails us, it's 196.5, then 195.4 as our major support. It could be testing those if things are really, really bad. If we get decent numbers, watch it potentially fill this gap and try to make its way up back to this 198 zone. Watch that very carefully. For Tesla, unfortunately, on the 4-hour time frame, it got rejected again off the 50 EMA. If we get some bad numbers, Tesla could start to come down, unfortunately, and retest 262.5. If that fails us, there's 260, and if we fill 260, it's going to come all the way down to fill this gap at 256. It could get a big rug pull, so be very careful. But if somehow the unexpected happens and the market starts pumping like crazy off the JOLTS numbers, watch the 50 EMA as our resistance is 268 zone. It's not like a perfect one level. It's just like 268.09 around that area, very close to it. Watch the 50 EMA as our resistance on the 4-hour time frame. If Tesla wants to turn bullish, we have to break above this and hold above it. So far, we failed to do so. So watch this resistance, and we will see if Tesla can try to break that. Now, unfortunately for NIO, this was like not some good news. It is dropping a little bit in the pre-market, but NIO absolutely killed it with deliveries. So you would expect them to, try to see some buying pressure. But if this is a buy the rumor, sell the news event, then it is what it is. But I'm really hoping we get some like buyers to come in. I was really hoping for that. This was some very, very bullish news that came out. Hopefully it's not a buy the rumor sold news event, because that would not make that much sense, because this news was so bullish. They had 20,000 deliveries exceeding expectations. Hopefully we see some buyers step in for it. For Aapl, if this thing pumps off the JOLTS numbers, we're going to be watching this thing pump to about 196.5 and then 197.2. If not, if bad numbers come out, we do have this 20 EMA at 195.36, the 50 at 194. We're going to retest 194 on Aapl if we do get a rug pull, and then we have this unfilled gap all the way down to like 193.39. So if Aapl does come down hard, it's going to drag the market down. Just be very patient with it. Right now on the QQQ, we're testing the 20 EMA at 381.5. So we did break below 382. That's a bearish signal. However, once the numbers come out, we will determine which way it goes. If we get a bounce off the numbers, it's going to pump all the way back to about 384. If we get a rug pull off the numbers, you're going to be watching it carefully. You're going to be watching 380 as support, then 378, and the potential for it to come back to like where this gap level happens to be around like 378 or so. So watch for some downside if that ends up being the case. Technicals do look a little weaker right now, but this could always change depending on the reaction. Nvidia stock, unfortunately, it is starting to downtrend a bit. We're currently testing 464. If bad numbers come out, it could come all the way down to 459 or so, if not 460. If good numbers come out, it's going to be, making an attempt to bounce, push up to about 470 at the very least. And if that breaks, 474. Now, don't forget, for Nvidia, we also have AMD's earnings coming out very soon. So this could affect how it moves tomorrow big time. And we still haven't really reached our 478 to 480 level. I'm really hoping it tries to get up there eventually. But I'm going to be very patient. I mean, you could argue there's a possible cup and handle forming, but just to be safe, the best thing to do is just be patient, watch your support and resistance levels, and we will see what reaction we get from all these different numbers. For now, the VIX is up a little bit. Dollar is also up right now. We're actually seeing the dollar pushing. This is part of why the market is selling off. The dollar is continuing to push to the upside, and Meta and all these different stocks are also gapping down. If we get a bullish amount of job numbers, we're going to see Meta try to push for about this 320 area, 325, probably around there, basically. If we get bad numbers, it's going to come all the way down to 310 to 309. If it breaks below that, we're going to be watching this thing potentially come all the way down to test this previous resistance, which is now support around this 302 level. It could sink pretty low, unfortunately. And then for Amazon, it's the same thing. This thing unfortunately could turn south pretty fast as well, but we need to watch for the numbers first, right? Bullish numbers, it's going to pump up to about 134, and it may continue to push for 136 approaching its earnings. If we get bearish numbers, it's going to come all the way down to about 131.78 potentially, and even the low 131s become a possibility. Could get a bigger drop. But I would anticipate, if anything, that it may try to bounce anyways as we approach like Wednesday or Thursday, approaching its earnings, and may try to uptrend. I'm really hoping it does. So then we could get a much more clean move after earnings. But for now, we're just talking about today. Be patient and take this one day at a time. Market right now is looking weak, but we will see what reaction we get once the market opens and once all this data drops. So once again, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time is the biggest time for the day. 30 minutes after the market opens wherever you are, and we're going to see what happens with all this data dropping. Until then, thank you all for listening. Have an absolutely spectacular day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and do what you have to do. Thank you, and peace out.